Welcome to the Perpetual Show. Welcome to the Perpetual Show. Where the loaves go, we've got flow. Oh yeah. Driving through the fields of green, oh so bright. With the loaf by your side, everything feels right. Loafing through the fields, feeling so alive. In our boxy Russian van, we're taking our stride. Past the fallen soldiers, a bittersweet sight. But we're cruising on this road tonight. Bouncing to the rhythm, calypso in our soul. The loaf's engine purring as our story unfolds. We're singing and we're dancing, the sun shining above. The loaf takes us places where we find love. Loafing through the fields, feeling so alive. In our boxy Russian van, we're taking our stride. Past the fallen soldiers, a bittersweet sight. But we're cruising on this road tonight. Bouncing to the rhythm, calypso in our soul. The love's engine purring as our story unfolds. We're singing and we're dancing, the sun shining above. The loaf takes us places where we find love.
Hello, everybody. We're here. I hope you enjoyed the loaf song. Um, I want to tell you a short story about the loaf song. I clicked the start the stream, and I always tell you there's two buttons to start a stream, right? So I clicked the button to start the stream, and then I waited like 15 seconds, and I started a loaf song, and I played the entire loaf song, and I realized I hadn't pressed the other button to start the stream. So then I had to click the other button and then play a loaf song again. So that's my story. Um, there's no Gick today because he's tired. And so it's just me. It's just me and the map. So um yeah, and I don't really have that much to say, to be honest, because I did a lot of work today and I'm tired. So um there are a few points that I just want to talk about briefly. Um First point is about Kursk. So I want to say that first off, um, I don't fully understand what's going on here, right here. Um, because there's a lot of like weird things. So the Russians say, that they control this area right here. They say that they 100% control it. It's not even contested. But the problem is, is that there's like airstrikes going on up here, like active airstrikes on a pretty regular basis, including up here and over here, and I think over here too. So there's like airstrikes going on all over here, and it seems that there are like defenses being built in this general area, and the defenses point north, which would be odd if Russia held it, because they would probably have them point south. So I don't know. It's a little bit confusing to me. The most confusing is the airstrike that was kind of like right here, kind of a weird place for an airstrike. And yeah, so this section here I find confusing. Today, okay, so I've had this area here, this little Nikhaev, whatever the name of this town here. I've had this town under Ukrainian control for a little bit, but today Romanov he said that Ukraine captured this town today, which I think they already had, and Russia's been bombing the town too, by the way. So they've been bombing the town, and he also said that they captured this town here, this little tiny itty bitty town that's like adjacent. So that's what Romanov said. So I don't know if I trust Ramanov one way or the other. So I didn't change the map yet. Maybe I will at some point. But so this is some interesting thing going on in Kursk. Now we have another little piece of news that I'm completely unprepared to show you. I probably should have prepared it. So let me scroll on up while I kind of talk about nothing for a second. Oh boy, where is it? Oh, here. I think this is it. Oh, nope. I always forget you have to log in, and I'm never logged in. Well, you have to log in once a day, don't you? So that's the thing. You have to log in once a day, and I didn't prepare that. But anyway, we have a screenshot. But here's a screenshot. Zoomed in too much. Okay, so here's a screenshot right here. So this appears to be Ukraine building a trench in Russia, and these airstrikes. So this airstrike was prior to this structure. Now you could debate whether this actually is a trench or not. You could probably argue that it could be a vehicle track. Seems unlikely to me to be a vehicle track, but you could argue that. These airstrikes here, I believe, predate this. But this airstrike, I believe, came at the same time or after this. So, so this area is getting airstriked, and that's interesting. I need to log in. We'll log into that website so I could show you what I actually wanted to show you. Uh, hopefully I can log in. Yeah. Okay. So I am logged in now. Um, let's see if I can open it correctly. Okay. Opening it correctly. Okay. So I'm going to adjust my my little settings here to make it a little bit easier to see. I think I usually go to about like 1.8 or so and go down to like 0.9, and I think it's a little easier to see this way. So here you go. You can see this this little structure here, and you can see all of these airstrikes in this general area, and you can see that there's some defenses there. They're pointing southward, aren't they? So they're probably Russian defenses, and some airstrikes around here. So I want to get these coordinates here. We're going to plug them into the map because I never actually wrote them down. Okay, so I have them and they're here. Okay, so this is where that is. And this is an area that we believe is very, very likely firmly held Ukrainian territory. And by firmly, I mean that we think that they've advanced pretty far. The Russians say that Ukraine advanced here at one point, and then they've shifted, and now they say they control here, but not here. So anyway, that's confusing. I don't actually see evidence of that either, but we do see evidence of Ukraine building perhaps a trench line here, and all of these airstrikes, and we know there's airstrikes all over here too, and up here too. So all of that is quite interesting. And there's more. I would like to show you this over here. Where am I? Here. Yeah, here. I want to show you this on the Sentinel, which is our little satellite here. So here we go. So this is that airstrike I was talking about before. This is it looks like there's two bombs here, and that is somewhat confusing. Here you can see shelling. The shelling is from about, I think, 4 or 5 days ago, or well, this point maybe 5 or 6 days ago. Um, Here you can see these forests are on fire, and we believe that Ukraine controls this town. So these forests are on fire. You can see this forest was on fire. You can see that this grass was on fire. This grass is on fire. This field is on fire. And by on fire, I mean all of these things appeared in the 48 hours prior to this image, and this image is from the 28th. So this image is from 2 days ago. We go back in time one day, and I can make it so that we can switch back and forth between the two pretty rapidly. And you can see that a lot of these fires, not all of them, but a lot of these fires were new. Okay, so this fire was new, this fire was new, and interestingly, this fire is new. See, this happened between the 6th or the 26th and the 28th. So at this point, probably like 3 days ago. So yeah, that is interesting. And also, this airstrike right here is also happened in that same time period. The airstrike happened in that same time period. I think it's very unlikely that this is a Ukrainian airstrike, although it could be, one of the classic Russian oopsie, because they don't always intend to drop bombs, do they? Sometimes they just drop them by accident. Yeah, this is a lot of the changes you see in this area of the map are based on those satellite images, where it appears that the center of this town might have there's pretty clear signs of combat in the middle of this town. I guess it could be Ukrainian shelling, it could be Russian shelling, it could be Ukraine attacked and was repelled. I'm not sure, so I marked it as a gray area. Similarly, there's the kind of evidence that they moved up here, and maybe even because the airstrike was like right there, so they may have moved up even further in the time since. Maybe here, where was that fire again? I forgot. The fire is above the 2, so would it be here? I'm confused. Let me just get the coordinates. Let me get the coordinates because I'm confused. Grabbing coordinates. Okay, so yeah, so yeah, okay, there. So the fire is there above the 2. That makes sense. Okay, so there's all that. That's what a lot of these things are for. There's just signs of combat. And I'd like to note that in the recent past, we've had some other signs of combat that have turned out to be absolute Ukrainian advances, especially right here north of Martinovka. You can't see images on this satellite. This is a 10-meter resolution, so each pixel is 10 meters, and that's way too big to see a vehicle. You could see like a boat, but not a vehicle, not like a tank or something. You would need much higher quality resolution. This is more for us, taking images of really big areas. So it's like you get these huge images, and then you can kind of go through them with really low resolution. And if you want a more specific area, you can buy higher resolution. Like this is 10 meter. So each pixel is 10 meters. You could get 70 centimeters, or better if you want to, 30, 50. And then you can see vehicles, but with this you can't. And in this town here, we have evidence of combat in the northern outskirts, like right here. And the Russians do admit that Ukraine has penetrated this town and has DRGs operating to the north of the town. And we see that in the form of obvious combat in this general area, which we can show on a satellite maybe. I can't remember if it was cloudy or not. So Let's wait for it to load a little bit. Okay, so here you can see that there's some shelling, and also if you compare to probably prior days, like the 24th or something, you can see that these grasses and stuff are on fire. You can see that these are clearly on fire, and that this is on fire, and that's on fire. So you can see that there are signs of ongoing combat, and it could be Ukrainian shelling, but I think more likely it's not caused by Ukrainian shelling, most likely. And furthermore, you can see these rather large holes in the tree lines, and again, all of these airstrikes. So it appears that Ukraine is attacking this town. The Russians say that there's DRGs operating to the north of it, but it's possible that it could be Ukrainian regular people. Yeah, DRG is like your guys operating behind the lines. It's like uh, deep reconnaissance. Okay. And you ask what are these branching things? These are like tree lines that separate all the little farms. So anyway, so that's kind of all I really want to say about Kursk because I don't really have any news beyond that. There was a lot of evidence that Ukraine has moved up and captured this little chunk of land here. The evidence comes from Russia dropping airstrikes on this little island of trees. Um, this whole section of forest getting shelled. It's not super heavy shelling, but you can see it. The shelling stops around here. There is some light shelling in this like facility here, and some light shelling here, and some light shelling here. But most of the shelling is like right there. And we have seen um, Ukrainians moving up and taking POWs here, and we've seen Ukrainian tanks operating on these roads. So it appears that Ukraine has captured this position, and also that they've been moving up here, but we don't know what they've done there, whether they've captured something or if they just moved up and then were beaten back again. So that's all I really have to say about Kursk at the moment. Um, anyways, moving on, we have today there was a flag in Stelmahivka, right here in Stelmahivka. I don't know what to make of this, to be honest. I didn't change the map for it. I might think about it more later. I find it confusing. Um, it, I just don't know what to think of it. It could be a recon element broke through and put up a flag, which Russians do all the time. It could be dropped by a drone. It could be that they actually captured it. I don't really know. So I need to ponder that a little bit more. But it is worth noting that they put a flag there. Uh, okay, so moving on. We had some shelling here, which is somewhat interesting, but we knew Ukraine held it already, so it's not that interesting. And we can move on down south. I don't really have particular news from Bilahurivka. There was some action there recently with so BMP and whatnot, but there's been some action, but I don't really have anything to say. And Chasiv Yar, Russia is attacking pretty consistently. From what I understand, they've taken just enormous casualties. And we don't see the casualties, but when I talk to people who are involved with Chasiv Yar, they tell me of like huge Russian casualties, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of of casualties per week, like enormous casualties, but we never see any of it. Like there was like a video yesterday where they showed like two. And anyways, so we're not really seeing these casualties, but I I've heard directly from people in this area, and they tell me of the casualties that Russia tries to cross this channel, and they try to cross it with like a few people, and they just get wiped out every single time, and it's just it's really brutal. So um, yeah, other than that, I don't really have news from there. And if we go on south, um, I do have some news from Turetsk, and it's all bad. It's all bad news. Well, there is some partial good news. Partial. I wouldn't even call it good news, but there's some news. So it seems to be, and I want you to take this with a grain of salt, relatively more stable than it was a little while ago. It's relatively more stable in that we're not seeing Russia break through and capture large parts of the city yet. So that's cool. And I mean that relatively stable. It's not actually stable. It's not doing that great, but we're not seeing huge Russian movements. They might be like moving through this kind of little semi-urban area, but other than that, it seems okay-ish. So the downside is that Ukraine is taking really bad casualties. Ukraine is taking terrible, terrible casualties. And no, Russia has not taken any of Chasiv Yar. They've not lived. So you said that Russia's taken 40% of Chasiv Yar. No, they have not. They have not captured literally any of Chasiv Yar. They don't control any of Chasiv Yar. They captured Kanal. But Kanal is not Chasiv Yar. So this is Chasiv Yar. That's Kanal. They don't have any of Chasiv Yar. Nothing. I just wanted to make that clear. But in Toretsk, Ukraine is taking really, really bad casualties. Just a lot of casualties. So there is relative stability, but it's at the cost of really high casualties. And even the stability that's coming from those casualties is relative stability, not actual stability, not something you could bank on in the future. And it's coming at a really high cost. Now, the Russians are trying to advance south of Turetsk. They're trying to move. They're trying to move from the south going north and from the south going west. So they're trying to kind of clear out some of these towns and probably try to ultimately maybe bypass the city and maybe try to surround it the way they do with every other city they attack, like Bakhmut, like what they did with like Soledar, for example. So they're trying to do that sort of thing. But I don't think they're using like huge numbers down here. It's kind of more of a smaller attack. And overall, I don't think Turetsk is Russia's main priority. I think Russia is attacking Turetsk mainly to tie down Ukrainian troops. Now, yeah, so I think that's kind of it. And I think Russia never intended on having this much success in Turetsk. I really think that Russia was surprised by New York collapsing and by this area here in near Mayorsk, this Pivnichna area and the Pivdena area. This all collapsed in a way that I don't think anyone saw coming, especially not Russia and especially not Ukraine. I don't think anyone really thought that would happen. I think a lot of this success was unpredicted. Um, but I think the ultimate outcome is what Russia wanted. They wanted to attack in a manner to put pressure on this whole area here, to force Ukraine to defend it and to force Ukraine to take casualties so that they have to keep pushing in reserves to hold this front. The success they had, I don't think they meant to do it. It was kind of like, okay, cool. But their overall goal is to tie down troops, and to tie them down for what? And for what is over here. So I see a lot of people freaking out because of Pokrovsk. I don't care about Pokrovsk. I don't think it's really the target here. I feel like Pokrovsk is the a minimalist aim. It'd be the minimalist target. So if Russia wanted like the smallest gains they could go for would be taking Pokrovsk. The bigger, more ambitious target would be moving south like this, which is what we're seeing them do. Okay, so right now they've been attacking towards Solidova. Uh, they've been moving through Mikhailivka. They've been going south towards through Mimrik, moving on south. So all of these towns, and also they've apparently captured Karlivka. So I'm not sure. I'll get to that in a second. But their goal here is to move south, not north, south. And the reason why is this conglomeration of towns, which are all situated on the top of a hill. This hill is relatively steep on the east and relatively flat to the north. And they have this kind of moat, this water surrounding them. And they would have been extremely difficult to attack from the east and from the south. But they're extremely easy to attack from the north. And this is turning into a complete disaster. This is the disaster. So they're moving on south, and Russia's unfortunately probably going to capture this whole area. And I want to talk briefly about why this is such a big threat and what I think is going to happen for the rest of this year. So I want to draw attention to Velika Novosuka, is this town here. This town is kind of one of the anchor points of the Ukrainian Zaporizhia defensive line. And Karakhova over here is like the anchor of Ukraine's eastern line. So this defends this line here, which obviously this line is mostly collapsed, but that was the anchor point here. And this is the anchor point here. And the area between them is Vuhledar. So this is why Russia was trying so hard to push through this gap between these two main defensive lines, because they thought that if they could breach and get between these two towns, that they could break the Ukrainian line in both directions and have a huge success. That failed. They've tried repeatedly their attacks on Vuhledar. It all failed. So they went to their next best plan, which was going through Mariinka. They wanted to push through Mariinka and get to Krakowa and capture and keep going down the highway. That largely failed, so they went to their next best plan, which was going through Pobieda. They captured Pobieda. They tried going west from it, and that failed. So they went to their next best plan, which was Konstantinivka. So they wanted to get Konstantinivka and push west, and that's succeeding, but it's too slowly. It is succeeding, but it's too slowly. They've probably captured Konstantinivka today, but then they will go to Katerinivka, and it's they're just going too slow. They got frustrated. So then they went through their fallback plan, which was their all-out assault on Avdiivka, followed by moving north through Ochertanina. So this was like their fourth plan on achieving this goal. So what they're doing, going through Avdiivka and going on north, is instead of attacking this defensive line that Ukraine has here, which is really strong position, like just objectively very, very strong. They've completely outflanked it, and now they can attack it from basically the rear, where this defensive line was like here, like so. And now Russia's attacking here, like that, and they're basically getting attacked from behind, and it's very bad. So that's why I think what Russia is going to aim to do this year, I think um, their one goal is to capture Kurahivka, and to basically capture everything north of this water, which is, Ukraine's strong point. And I think that they're going to aim to push down this highway and then try to capture Velika Novosilka from the rear. Simultaneously, they will likely try to push from Konstantinivka, try to push this way and try to capture kind of these towns here, and then kind of aid in the attack on Velika Novosilka. And the end, I think Russia's like kind of end goal is to capture this whole chunk of land here, which is basically the entire southern portion of Donetsk. I think that is their goal for this year, not Pokrovsk. I think Pokrovsk is not their goal. I'm not saying they can't capture it. Well, I'm not saying they can either. I don't think they can, but they might go for it if there's an opportunity. But I think their true goal is going south. I think it's their actual what they want to do. Is this is what they've wanted the entire time. They've wanted to do this since 2022. Mariinka held on way longer than they ever expected. Vuhledar turned out to be a disaster for them. Konstantinivka just took so long. They're moving so slowly. So all of these southern defenses turned out to be ridiculously strong, but they found their weak point to the north of Avdiivka, and they have exploited it. So that's what we're seeing now. It appears that Russia captured Karlivka. They're putting up their little flaggy flags all over the place. I want to note that this, how I've mapped it right now, I may change it later today. I just kind of mapped something for the stream. I'm not entirely sure. I need to like talk to more people and do my research and stuff. But this is just the way I mapped it for the moment. I'm not really, I might change. So they put up some flaggy flags. They walking around with a flag. Look at him. Look at him. He's a sure is a flag bearer. Look at him. And he even poked it into the ground and took his rifle and shot this guy. What a guy he is. And they put a flag on a little churchy thing, and flag time, you know? So yeah, what this kind of represents is that Russia has completely crossed this waterway, and they are going to try to follow the water south and capture as many of these towns as they can, with the ultimate goal of capturing all of them. And now it's Ukraine's job to defend it, and preferably defend it where it is now, so not let Russia keep coming. Also note that as Russia moves down these streams, all of these defenses over here turn into bad, don't they? They turn pretty bad when you're being surrounded. Not good. So the further Russia goes south, the more Ukraine is probably going to have to withdraw. And so moving south has the double benefit of not only do you capture these towns, but you force Ukraine to withdraw all this stuff, and you capture all this stuff for free. So that's the double whammy. This is the bad. This is bad. This is I think the real threat that Russia is doing right now. You can't gloss over how bad it is. So, simultaneously, Russia is trying to attack Vodiana. They're moving up near Vuhledar. They may have captured some of this. I haven't actually seen proof of it. But also, Russia is doing pretty large mechanized attacks west from Mariinka, trying to capture Herivka. They took a licking today. They took a licking. They lost, well, last I heard, they lost like 30 something armored vehicles today, and I think they lost like 30 something yesterday too. So these armored assaults are not going well for them. I believe there may have been an armored assault up here too. I, from what I understand, today they've done, I believe, 5 armored assaults of at least 10 vehicles in this general area today. And I think 2 or 3 of them were here, and I think maybe one of them was up here. But yeah, that's kind of the situation right now. There are a few other points. There was an Iskander attack uh, south of Odessa that did apparently. It's hard to judge how much damage it did, but it did damage. There was a Shahed attack near Poltava that attacked oil. There was a airstrike in Sumy that um, did pretty significant damage as well. And of course, there was a massive airstrike on Kharkiv that did a tremendous amount of damage. I believe 50 something casualties, with a number of them having died. So uh, that's kind of the news that I want to talk about. There's other things I don't want to talk about, so I'm not going to. I don't know. Mattis, is there anything I should say? Is there anything else? Oh God. Okay. I don't know what you just said. All I heard was static, but uh
Sorry, I said not sure.
okay. Yep. So is there, can you think of anything positive to say about literally anything?
I don't know.
Okay.
Seems a bit doom and gloom at the moment.
Yeah, I should have saved some sort of positive news for the end. Oh, there is one positive news. There is one objectively good news today. Okay, so I don't know if you read this, but China is I don't know what the word is. They're pulling out of deals with Russia out of fear of secondary sanctions. So like in mass, Chinese companies are withdrawing from Russia as of today. And that is good news. That is good news. So um yeah, that's the good news. China de-investing with Russia out of fear of secondary sanctions. So, I believe they've been pulling yuan out of Russia. They've been like axing deals they had with Russia, etc., etc. So not great. Yeah, and the bankies are debanking the Russians. Oh yeah, they're gonna have to move to their cryptocurrencies in Russia, aren't they? Poor guys. So that's all I have to say. That's the stream. It's longer than I thought it would be, but we talked about things. So that's all. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.